job work is hard. A person like me with that sunshine like it is right now.
Tell me to turn it up. Tell me to turn it down. Please don't.
Just swim through
God.
that green light.
Let the music go.
That's it. To get on the boat.
Boat again. Boat again.
Oh, yeah. It's fun.
So awesome. Welcome back, GEOHOLICS, episode 252.
252.
Man, oh man. We're cooking now.
We are cooking.
Yeah. What we got Will doing over here? Will's like messing with everything.
He also needs to turn his mic off, so
What? Yeah.
because he's in the thing with us. Here, let me take care of it for you. I got you, buddy. There you go. Now you're set.
All right. Let's get on with this. What do you say?
We're adding Will as another video feed.
Apparently we are, and he's sitting right next to me. This is the weirdest thing ever.
Yes.
Our episode sponsor, of course, is MLID. We got to make sure we mention them. Have you
Always.
guys heard about Wingtra Ground?
Well, I
You heard
have.
of it?
I have.
Only
yeah.
every week for the last 12, right?
Yes.
It's a all-in-one kit for aerial surveys, of course. It combines all the elements of a ground control setup. Stop that. GNSS receivers powered by MLID, of course. Checkpoints and the necessary tools to make it all work. It automatically connects to the Wingtra tablet, which is super cool. We've seen it in person, providing step-by-step setup guidance for fast and error-free base and checkpoint setup. It can be used independently for terrestrial surveys, including point collection and stakeout for topography, boundary mapping, construction, and GIS. Find out more, go to emlid.com.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
It's super cool. We've seen it. We've seen it in person. Yeah, it's awesome. What's up with you, Sean?
Not a whole lot. Had a big, nice little quarterly management meeting today with the big team at the
Nice.
office. So,
Nice.
so I got fancy shirt on, and
Yeah.
I did the presentation. So I've been talking all day. So I'm looking
Awesome.
forward to this conversation.
You're looking forward to more talking.
Yeah, but this is different. It's much more casual.
Yeah.
Much more my speed.
And you got a mezcal in your hand.
Yeah. This is actually very delicious. by
Life
the
is
way.
good.
Yeah, life
It is good.
Yeah.
Are we going to finish this bottle tonight?
No. No.
Not tonight. Not tonight. Not tonight.
What's new with you, my friend?
What's new with me? You know what? I heard this the other day. I'm going to use it right now. I am happier than a skinny tick on a fat dog's ass. Hop that.
Why? What's got you so happy?
Just a good place. Work's going well. Personal life's going well. Everything's good, man.
Awesome. We got a couple of other guests with us.
We do. Will Wing, of course. Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks
you,
for
guys.
joining us in studio. Always good to have you.
Mm-hmm.
You bet. Good
What's
to
new
see
with
ya.
you, buddy?
Oh, I swear, ever since we got back from Geo Week, it's just been on the gas. But
Yeah.
no, work's crazy. But we've been doing some cool things.
Nice.
Doing a lot of outreach stuff. Last 2 weekends in a row,
Mm-hmm.
we've been, setting up booths, career fairs. Yesterday we had a lunch and learn with about 30 students. So
Good
it's
for
been
you.
Been good, man. Been
Yeah.
good. We'll talk more about it.
You are a great spokesman for the profession.
I would consider.
The next
I would
Trankina.
consider him
The next Trankina.
He's an ambassador.
Ambassador, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. What was I going to ask you? Have you been doing any racing by chance?
Yes, we've been doing that too. I'm not racing. I am the head mud scraper for my buddy's race car. But you still get to get out there. You still get the adrenaline. He did let me drive it last week.
Did he really?
Yes, it
That's
was
awesome.
Sponsor appreciation night. So I got to
Wow.
take it for a few laps and
That's cool.
scare the shit out of myself. Yeah.
Dang. Maybe we need to sponsor that car next year so I can take a few
There
laps.
you go. There you go.
What do you think about that?
What'd you say? I and not we.
No, if it only allows one, it's probably going to have to be me.
It's gonna have to be me.
It's probably gonna have to be me. We've also got Josh Miller with us this evening as another co-host. Josh, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And just wanted to make sure you can hear me okay. Thumbs up.
Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
We're
Yeah,
good.
so name's Josh Miller. I have been in the surveying profession since 2000. And currently with David Evans Associates, just got my 20-year congratulations to me. So they
Wow.
gave me I get to choose a gift and I'll get a month long extra little vacation bonus given to me of which I have some very specific
Nice.
plans to use it this summer. So
Good for you. Is it like do you get like a Jelly of the Month Club subscription with that? What does it look like?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, they let us choose from a series of prizes or gifts. I haven't quite dove down to the website to figure out what options are there, but I'm sure they'll be pretty handy. So yeah,
That's
very
cool.
excited. It really coincides well because me and my whitewater rafting group have been putting in the lottery for the Middle Fork of the Salmon River for the last 10 plus years. And we have never won the lottery on it. And this year, about a month ago, we were notified that we won. So I'm going to spend
Awesome.
8 days floating down the most prestigious whitewater you can pretty much find in North America.
Wow.
So,
That's awesome,
that is
man.
cool.
Good for you.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
that's
I'm jealous.
awesome,
In
Thank
full
you.
transparency, Josh and I are coworkers. Did
I
I tell you that?
I gathered.
Yes,
I gathered.
yes. Both work at David Evans, both market leaders. We're in meetings every week together. And yeah, we just have a lot of fun.
I can already tell it sounds like Josh is the clear champion in
Which part?
between the two of you.
He's the whitewater rafting champion between the two of us for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
I just say you
We
said
haven't
something
been golfing
similar
together yet,
roles.
but
But hey, Josh, am I or am I not the goldfish racing champion?
you are the goldfish racing champion, man.
I've heard of this. I've heard of this. Yes.
With,
I was on a plane
That was
flying back
front
there
from
you go, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
on a plane.
you need to keep moving on.
Yeah.
Josh was there. All right, next up, we have the Topodot Song of the Week. Lot to talk about here with Topodot. You know Topodot is the industry leader in digital twin production from point cloud data, but did you know Topodot offers a total data governance solution for free? TopoShare. Take control of your data with TopoShare. Create your own data warehouse, share and manage access to project data, and streamline your production process at the lowest possible cost. Discover TopoShare and more at the Topodot Users Conference, which we will be at
We will
here
be
in
there.
2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
May 5th through the 9th in Orlando. Got to book those
Creeping up.
flights.
Yeah.
Registration is open, and there's going to be a lot of cool stuff. And you and I are the freaking keynote speakers.
Pretty crazy, right?
It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
We're going to have so much
We
fun.
may want to talk about what we're going to talk about, but
We're going to wing it, man.
well, we are going to
The
totally
night
wing it.
before, we're going to be
Yeah.
drinking mezcal, and we'll have it all figured out. Don't you
Hungover
worry.
off the cuff keynote dress.
I
Absolutely.
feel like there's going to be a lot of chat GPT involved in this.
Hey, wait, what's ChatGPT? I've never heard of such a thing.
Exactly.
All right, what was that song, buddy?
This is very coincidental. Is Jake Owen. The song was "On the Boat Again." Jake Owen from Winter Haven, Florida.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Coincidentally, very similar. I believe our good friend Ted at Topodot.
I believe you're right.
It lives in Winter Haven or does a lot of work there. Both. He's an American country music singer and songwriter who initially pursued a career in professional golf. However, a wakeboarding accident required reconstructive shoulder surgery, ending his golf aspirations. In 2006, Owen signed with RCA Nashville and released his debut album, Startin' With Me. Owen has toured with prominent country artists like Kenny Chesney, Brad Paisley, and Carrie Underwood, and has received many accolades, including the ACM Award for Top New Male Vocalist in 2009. You ever notice how some people are just like talented and good at stuff? Like, I was going to be a professional golfer, but then that didn't work out. So then I guess I'm going to just pick up country music and then
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, just make
And
that
in the middle
happen.
of that, it's a wakeboarding act. Like I can't even wakeboard. Like
Yeah, start with
people
that.
just do all these crazy things.
Yeah,
But
I
wild.
met Jake, as a matter of fact.
I always see him at the Phoenix Open. He's
Yes.
always there. He's
And
always
I met him at the Pro-Am at the Phoenix Open probably
he's-
5-6
yeah,
years
he's at
ago.
the Pro-Am.
And I got my picture taken with him, and I sent it to my daughters. I'm like, do you guys know who this guy is? They're like, Dad, that's Jake Owen. Oh my God, I can't believe you got your picture taken with Jake Owen. But so I was cool for a day. It was awesome. Next up, we are in the Altera Central studio, of course. Altera Central is the authorized premier Trimble dealer for survey, mapping, GIS, forensics, marine equipment in Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, and New Mexico. They also offer field supplies and can deliver them right to your job site. I've used that service before. It's amazing. All backed by a service department with one of the fastest turnarounds in the nation. I've used that before as well. To find out more, go to alteracentral.com.
Well, you were saying Altera was helped you out yesterday at your
Yeah, love those
Young
guys.
Surveyor Network outreach event.
Yes, sir. Yes. Danny Jones came out, brought the X9, and it's not the first time he's done it. So Altera is very on board with, outreach in Arizona. So
We're on
Kudos.
They're
board with that
amazing.
too.
Yep. They're great. They've been a sponsor of the show now for a few years, and we can't thank them enough. All right, next up, we have the Esri Weekly Pro Tip. Esri is advancing the power of geography for business, government, and society by making the world's most powerful GIS software. Do they have any competitors? I don't even think they do.
Not really.
To find out more, go to Esri.com. What do you got for us this week, Sean?
A little short one, but I like it. Here we go.
There's a story behind this one, by the way.
Can't wait. Sometimes people deserve a high five in the face with a chair. That was Will Rogers.
That is awesome. And you know what? Guess what today is? It is National High Five Day.
Really?
Yes.
What a great,
April 17th
what a
is
great
National High Five Day. Who knew, right?
virtual high fives.
Virtual high fives to you guys. Yeah. That's what tied that all together. How about that?
That's amazing.
You're still shocked. I know.
I am shocked
All right. Next up,
that wasn't Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, or Teddy Roosevelt,
or Will Wing.
or Will Wing.
that matter, yes.
That's better quotes.
Next up, we have GeoSearch Career Corner. This is you. Go, buddy.
Uh,
Well, that's me. Looking to hire top talent in the geosciences? GeoSearch has you covered with a free job posting just for GEOHOLICS listeners. That's free. That's pretty powerful. As a full-service recruiting company, they specialize in connecting top professionals with the right opportunities.
That's right. With their ad posting service, your job your job posting reaches nearly 34,000 engaged LinkedIn professionals, maximizing exposure to qualified candidates. Don't miss this chance to build your dream team. To claim your complimentary job post, email Liz, L-I-Z, at geosearch.com today. And as always,
Happy mapping.
One thing, Kent, when you present a thing that's got different colors on it for who talks and who doesn't, remember that you're colorblind. So
Yes.
highlighting the text different colors kind of
Doesn't always work. Doesn't always work.
takes away the effectiveness.
Sometimes there's glitches.
It works really well for me, but however, maybe a different, different italicized or something.
Maybe I need to go to that. Just point me in the right direction. We'll be okay.
Got it.
Next up, the GeoNet count of the week. I love this part of the program. It's always a lot of fun. GeoNet is the world's largest blockchain-based RTK network, providing RTK service precise enough for professional survey, construction, and drones.
That's right. Our current count, 15,171 satellite miners, up from 14,865 last week. 4,377 cities and 142 countries. Find out more, go to geodnet, that's geodnet.com. Be sure to click on the Find a Hex tab to see if you can put one on your house or place of business and start making money. I got to ask it every week. I got to hear the updates and progress on how's that coming on that house in Pines. That miner on there.
You know the answer to this.
No.
I have negotiated a special GeoHolics price for my miner.
Ooh.
Two miners.
Two
actually.
miners.
They're going to get two miners. One's going to go to Pine. One may be going to your dad's house.
Yes, absolutely. Should be going to my dad's
going to your
house.
dad's house, and we're going to start making money.
I think we should ship one to PETA too. Do you think PETA had one?
No, yeah, but I looked. I think her hex is taken.
Ooh,
PETA's hex is taken.
shocking.
However you want to interpret that. But yes, so we're going to put one in Pine. We're going to put one in North Carolina, right? And
In the sticks,
we
buddy.
are going to continue to fill in this network because it's incredible.
It is.
What these guys are doing is unbelievable. Go to geonet.com. But before we move on, we got to talk about the GeoNet and Bad Elf partnership that has been established. They have teamed up to provide an amazing offer. So for $999.99, not quite $1,000, you can get GeoNet RTK services for 5 freaking years. GeoNet is also offering to place a base station should there not be a station within 40-kilometer radius of your operating area with a commitment to the 1-year subscription. Visit bad-elf.com/GeoNet to find out more.
I can't wait to continue on this
We
story
are
of when
so
you,
close, buddy. I honestly think by this time next week, we will have 2 miners en route.
So again, you pushed buy on the website and you're waiting for it to be shipped to you.
Did I? Are you asking if I've done that?
Yeah.
No, I haven't even pushed
That's
buy
your
yet.
that's your action item for next for
Push
for,
buy.
for push buy.
Buy. Okay, I will push
Hey.
buy before next week.
Hey,
How
so
about that?
before any step forward in towards your goal is,
We're making
is
progress.
progress.
Exactly.
However, small and no little effort you put in, but we're getting there.
I'm not quite sure how to interpret that, but I'll take it as a compliment. Of course. All right, let's get our guest in here. He's been waiting very, very patiently. Really excited to have this conversation. Of course, our guest this week is presented by Trimble Geospatial, dedicated to big thinking innovation. Together with their worldwide distributor partners, the Trimble Geospatial team is working with current and future generations of surveyors for a more sustainable future.
That's right.
To find out more, go to geospatial.trimble.com. We've got Chad Maxwell with us. A little bit about Chad. Born in Vero Beach, Florida.
Also a Florida guy.
Florida. Education, he's got a BS in Geomatics from University of Florida. He's got to be happy with the NCAA outcome, right?
Oh, I'm
Indeed.
sure. I think he did the little gator chop thing there.
Yeah. He has an MBA from University of Louisiana at Lafayette. Hobbies include golf, hiking, running with his wife, and chasing his 3 kids around. His current job title is Senior Geomatics Manager at HDR Inc. Great company. Career highlights. I'm going to read this. Normally, I keep the career highlights kind of to a minimum, but this was really cool information that he provided us. So he has led teams conducting geospatial work in the air, on land, and at sea on multiple continents with international clients from 200 meters above the ground to 3,000 meters below the ocean surface and in between, in a helicopter, in a truck, on the railroad, on foot, on an airboat, and a swamp buggy from vessels in the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean, below the rim in the Grand Canyon, on remote islands, inside a nuclear reactor, inside a jet engine testing chamber. What hasn't this guy done? It sounds like a Dr. Seuss thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a guy that stayed at a Holiday Inn Express or whatever that.
You're saying he made all this up. Is what you're saying.
It sounds made up. Like if you type into ChatGPT, give me the craziest bio for a geospatial person, and that book comes out.
His passion is his family, which I love, and developing a new story for surveying. Chad, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the GEOHOLICS.
Oh, thanks guys for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, and just to underscore on the bio there, I've been really lucky in surveying. It does read like the places you'll go.
Yeah.
From Dr. Seuss, which is one of my kids' favorites. So,
Awesome.
It's been a wild ride, and I've been at it, professionally since 2008, and so
Dang.
excited
crazy,
to
man.
see where the next, kind of 15, 20, 30 years are going to take me. So,
Yeah.
appreciate
So
the
how did-
opportunity.
For sure. How did that happen, Chad? I mean, it's like you're pretty young still, and you've had all these experiences. Many of these experiences, I'm like, God, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could do that. I want to have international experience. I want to do all these things. How have you been so lucky to have all those experiences?
Yeah, well, I think it is luck, really. And I'll tell you how. So I just kind of showed up and said yes. That's the basic framework.
That's awesome.
But at first, I didn't have any choices. So I graduated actually. So I started, kind of professionally with survey in 2008. I graduated from University of Florida in 2009. And in Florida, particularly in that time, we were on the backside of housing crisis, backside of financial crisis. So it was terrible. It was a terrible environment to go to work as a surveyor. As luck would have it, I had interned for a firm in Louisiana. It was the old John Chance and Associates firm that had been bought by Fugro. So that we were operating as John Chance Land Surveys under the Fugro umbrella. And as you guys may or may not know, Fugro is a very large geospatial firm. I mean, they do a lot of things, but they're in a little bit of everything. And so we were we were, I guess, maybe principally the land survey operating company. We had some unique capabilities in there. John Chance was instrumental in rig positioning offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. So it had some geosynchronous satellite services that they were selling to position rigs for oil drilling and field development and all kinds of things. And so some really neat technology and some really smart people there that sort of built out from that, that initial sort of competitive advantage and into all kinds of other things. So we had a full land survey company. We had what was really early on a geospatial company where we had 8 LiDAR systems that were compartmentalized that we could bolt on helicopters, ship them around the world.
Nice.
Very sophisticated back-end software to handle that, and this was early on, this was early 2000s, and so that blossomed out, into fixed wing, and a whole bunch of other things. So I had interned there, and when I graduated, I always intended to stay in Florida, and when I graduated, I looked around, and usually we had the geomatics program at Florida is there's a lot of professional folks that have come through there, and so
Yep.
the recruiting and networking is that kind of thing in the program is very strong, but there just wasn't anything to go around. So I got one offer when I graduated from a Florida firm, and they kind of told me, it's like, we got 100 days worth of work, but we can't promise you anything after that. And
Yeah.
I was engaged at the time, so my wife and I were engaged to be married, and we figured we'd finish up college and we'll get married, and we'll start our dream of a family, and so I kind of said, well, 100 days, that's she's not gonna like,
It's not gonna work.
if,
Yeah, right.
kind of thing. So I had interned with John Chance in Louisiana, kind of doing pipeline work, and it was great for a college kid, just out there in the marsh staking right away for pipeline projects. And they at that time, so oil was very expensive. The price per barrel was up over $100, and so
Nice.
they were hiring like crazy. And so we kind of we didn't have any other choice, so we showed up and said yes, and kind of one thing led to another, and it kind of came up through the company a little bit, and then got involved in the offshore side, and that's a wild ride too. Which,
Oh, yeah.
We could talk about more of it. I guess my story is there. It underscores the avenues that are available to people in our world. So if we can make sense of the world around us and help others make sense of it, that's a very valuable service, and there's tons of applications, and there really is no limiting factor there for me.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
said.
Well said, no doubt. So in your current role at HDR, like what does that look like? What are your responsibilities?
Yeah, so I'm the senior geomatics manager at HDR. I sit in our what we call cross-sector services. So I stretch across the business verticals. We have 6 business verticals, and so HDR is a fairly large engineering company. We're moving into the international space, truly national, but expanding international reach as well. And so we touch a little bit of everything on the AEC side. So transportation's our core business. We have water resources, which is like transmission line power, pipelines, oil and gas, renewables, all that kind of thing. Architecture, building engineering services, and federal. And so we get to sort of plug in, but day to day, my responsibility is to be principally, probably 85-90% of my responsibility is to be the interface between our internal HDR teams and our external partners. And
Okay.
so we buy tons of survey, right?
Okay.
And so I'll oversimplify it here, but I translate languages, right?
Okay.
From engineer designer speak to surveyor, and then back up the chain all the way around. So we partner. HDR is not built like a survey shop. We don't want to be. HDR is like a lot of big engineering companies are risk averse, and so they look at survey as a risk to mitigate, and I'm agnostic on that. I don't know if it's right, wrong, or otherwise, but I look at my role as an opportunity to help make other surveyors successful. Our project teams succeed when our sub-consultants succeed, and if we do a great survey job, we add value. across a project life cycle, and so, you know, we get to HDR is an employee-owned company, like I know DEA is or was.
Was.
That's awesome.
You know, so, sorry, I don't know if that's salt in the wound or not, but Josh
Wound's a little fresh there, Chad. You gotta be.
Josh and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. You know, yeah, anyway, HDR is a little bit. It's a little bit different for me as a surveyor, because prior to coming to HDR, I ran my own firm, you know, small shop, you know, used to being able to control, you know, the work production, the product, you know, everything that goes out the door or comes in, you know, I'm sort of touching. But HDR is not quite that way. But if we can add value, you know, as an owner, I kind of look at it the same way. As we can add value, that's going to return in the end. And so, you know, I'm happy with that as an employee owner, and I know our other employee owners are happy with that as well. If we can maximize value, that's a big deal. And so,
Hey,
that's
value, make friends. That's what I'm hearing here.
I mean, check. Yeah. That rings true with us.
100%.
100%. Yeah. So, Chad, I got to tell you, I'm freaking jealous of your career, because I've been doing this probably twice as long as you have, as far as working in the survey profession. And you've had all these experiences. Twice. I'm not that old. You've had all these freaking amazing experiences that, you know, I mean, kudos to you. It's awesome. And I mean, some of the things we're going to talk about this evening, you know, you've written some amazing articles about the survey profession. I mean, your insight is just, oh, it's like next level, and we just really appreciate that you're here and able to talk to us this evening.
Yeah, well, guys, no, I really appreciate the platform. You know, I think I went back and listened to some episodes, and I was listening to one from GeoWeek, and I think you guys passed like 75 or 80,000 subscribers, something like this. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like we're like
listeners? Yeah.
8,000 to 10,000 downloads a month at this point, right?
Oh, yeah, we've been north of 10 for a little while.
For a while now. Yeah. So it's definitely we've got a lot of traction for sure.
That's wild, though. So I was trying to figure this out, right? So I did some Googling, right? And I'm familiar with some of the licensure statistics and the sort of the numbers, the labor statistics numbers and things like that, you know, about our profession. Like we've got somewhere around, you know, neighborhood 40,000 licenses. Somewhere, Bureau of Labor Statistics thinks we're like 140 to 150,000, you know, as an industry. You guys are touching like a gigantic chunk of that. So, you know, the opportunity to do this and talk with you guys is an amazing one for me as well.
Cool. Well, we're excited to have you.
Yeah.
Anything like based on what Chat has said so far, anybody have anything they want to ask or add before we move on?
No, he just, you know, stroked your ego a little bit, but that's cool. I know he's your new best friend.
Well, of course he's my new best friend. All the guests we have are my new best friends. Have you not learned that, Sean?
I have, yes. Yeah.
I mean, no, seriously, you guys are like Google dominant. That's the kind of numbers it is, man. That's pretty crazy.
We're getting there.
Yes, we do have a monopoly in the geospatial podcast.
All right, so let's jump into it a little bit. You know, and like I said, Chad, you've written some amazing articles. That's how we connected. I read a couple of your articles. I think I reached out to you on LinkedIn. I'm like Chad, this is good stuff. I'd love to have you come on the show and talk about it. And
what is this remote sensing first thing? I'm looking.
Well,
at.
we're no, you're skipping ahead. Let's get.
I want to get right into that.
No. We're not there quite yet. We gotta lay the groundwork. We gotta
do our
put some
research first,
context here. Yeah. So Chad, I mean, based on everything you've said and like the articles that you've written, I mean, I am very curious to hear what your definition of the surveyor's role in the 21st century is.
Yeah. So, well, it's for me, it's the same role that it has been, and so I'll tell you a story a little bit. So, kind of the first documented, you know, instance of the survey profession it dates back to Egypt, and so they had in Egypt they needed some way so that their civilization was set up on the Nile River, and the Nile floods, right, yearly. and it sort of washes away kind of everything that's on the surface. And so they needed, so the people that are set up there, and they're doing agriculture, and they're building their lives and things on the Nile, and every
Yep.
year it comes and washes it out. And so, you can imagine from year to year, you don't know what you had control over versus what your neighbor had control over, and that affects what you grow, where you graze your herd or whatever. And so they figured out this way to stretch ropes, to have basically a reference point, and stretch ropes and pull distances, kind of to reestablish what we would call possession lines, right?
Mhm.
In ancient Egypt. And so if you think about that for a second, what are they actually doing? Yeah, they're laying stuff out on the ground, and that's good. But what they're doing is they're setting the framework for understanding, civilization, people's rights, where they can extend influence to, who owns what and how much, and
Yep.
and so they're setting the framework to understand the space, and so that's I wrote kind of a follow up to an initial argument on national standards in LinkedIn, and published it, and I talked a little bit about spatial intelligibility in that article. And so I want to take a minute and sort of define what I mean by spatial intelligibility, because that's at the core of sort of understanding the surveyor's role and responsibility. And so we have the capacity to make observations and make measurements and arrange that in such a way that other people can come behind and add value and understand, and they can build on top of it, and they can understand where rights exist and begin and end. And spatial intelligibility is understanding through a spatial lens, through and that doesn't have to be necessarily positionally. It can be relative, right? So that this is this area is this much bigger than that area, kind of thing. But it's space dependent, and so the idea of spatial intelligibility kind of comes out of the planning academic thread. So it was an idea that some folks had in the 60s about, and they were trying to understand why some cities are easier to just sort of conceptualize and understand versus others. So, kind of the classic way you can think about this is it's real easy to kind of make your way through New York City, right? There's roughly, it's a grid. The streets are laid out parallel and perpendicular avenues, and they're numbered sequentially, and so it's pretty easy to kind of figure out without a whole bunch of a priori knowledge or knowledge beforehand. Houston, on the other hand, is a freaking mess, and it's just kind of a patchwork, and you don't know where the hell
Austin
you are.
as well. What's with Texas? What's with Texas?
Yeah. So, well, I suspect it has something to do with the way that the lands were subdivided in the first place. But anyway, that's maybe a topic for a different day. But spatial intelligibility kind of grew out of that theme, and now it's being used, as kind of a way to reconstruct the digital space now. So as we mirror worlds and develop digital twins, we're talking about spatial intelligibility, because you want to understand the micro and the macro, and so those things have to sort of come together in a unity. And anyway, so that's when we talk about spatial intelligibility, that's kind of what I mean. We're developing the framework for understanding, and so if we're, and that happens at different levels, which you guys I'm sure can appreciate. So we're establishing a reference frame. That can be at the macro level, at the globe, right? We've got lat longs, and we're establishing horizontal, vertical datums, geopotential datums. At that level. It can also be at the micro level, where we're setting up grid systems at processing plants and things like that. It has nothing to do with the macro, but it's key to establishing the framework and the relationships that are happening in that space. And so when we do, and that's the same thing to tie it all the way back. So that's the same thing that the rope stretchers were doing in Egypt. That's the same thing that they were doing in Babylon with the possession stones, and that's the same thing that we find ourselves doing, now today. And if you'll notice too, one thing I like about the ancient Egypt story is it's technology agnostic. It doesn't matter what the technology is. They had ropes, for crying out loud, and today, and not to dog on ropes. I mean, I think as a surveyor today, tape measure might be my favorite tool. It's certainly probably my most accurate tool that I can use. So, it's not a function of technology, but we can. I'm excited for today's surveyor because the technology allows us to develop that spatial intelligibility at a much more a much higher resolution. And so we say all the time inside of HDR, at least I do, if you want better decisions, you need better data, and you need more data. And so we can drive that data volume that gives the context to aid in spatial intelligibility that allows somebody else to come in behind and overlay meaning and design and build something.
So what about this, Chad? It's I love where you're going with this, but like we have the ability and the capacity to collect more data than ever before at a faster rate. And it's just like, it boils down to what we do with that, right? I mean, we're in an interesting time right now.
Yeah. I think connectivity is kind of the bottleneck with that stuff, right? Because you can have the best technology in the world, but if it's only accessible to you and not anybody else, then how valuable is it, right? So
exactly
100%. I mean, I've been so we've been bumping up against this my entire career, where we've been able to collect more than we can handle, and deliver. So and that's painful a little bit as a surveyor, right? We got to sort of acknowledge that kind of sucks. You work your ass off collecting a bunch of data, and somebody comes through and they say, well, that's good, but what I really need is a point every 25 feet. And you're like, oh,
or can you explode that whole drawing for me, please?
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh man, it's so
it is
funny.
a tough one, and so delivering the full fidelity of what we're able to collect, like that's a huge deal. And I feel like, I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I feel like that curve, that learning curve, we're getting toward, we're coming downhill on that, and hopefully it's going to shallow off soon, and we'll be able to do that and deliver in big ways.
Yeah, I mean, surveyors, I think, are in a really unique position. It's like, I mean, we're almost like at a precipice, right? Like, what direction are we going to go? Are we going to like succumb to all this reality capture stuff and only have boundary, or like, what are we going to do as a profession to be able to capture all of this?
But you said succumb to, like it's an affliction that you have to overcome.
Well, no, I'm just saying, it's like, we're getting to the point now where all surveyors are going to have is boundary, right? Because anybody can go and set up a scanner and collect whatever. Anybody can go out there and do a topo with whatever.
But I don't think that's what Chad's saying. I think Chad's saying it doesn't matter what the tools are. The basic concept.
Well, no rules for tools, right?
No. I think there should be rules, and it doesn't matter what the tools are.
Yeah.
I guess the whole point is the definition of what a surveyor is, and I think you're doing the thing where you're trying to narrow down what a surveyor is instead of open it. You don't want it to be a good old boy club and too exclusive, or should it be anybody that's...
I'm saying we could go one of two directions is what I'm saying.
Josh, what do you think?
Well, I think that the profession has evolved so greatly from when it started in our modern era to where it is now, that we're still defining that very question that you guys are talking about. And a lot of us, just like Kent said, are unsure of where our profession is going. I, for one, have seen it change from before even we had regular access to GPS, to now everything's, just like you mentioned, your GPS on the fly, it's everywhere. To LiDAR, LiDAR used to be kind of a pretty advanced thing, and now it's going on a drone, and you can use it from your phone, right? So the rate at which our profession is advancing with regards to technology is going at such a fast rate that it's really challenging to define. And I'm with you, Kent. I've thought, like, at some point in time, the only thing that's going to be left in our profession is boundary, because everything's going to be, the world's going to be mapped, and it's going to be continuously updated on a, almost a live basis. Like, once we start figuring out how to do that from satellites, that's probably a reality of things. But what does that really mean to us? How are we still going to have our fingerprints on this profession?
Yeah, great question. $1 million question, as a matter of fact.
Go ahead, Chad.
Go ahead, Chad. I got to get back to Sean because it's like head spinning over here.
I think that is the question, and so I appreciate you guys taking different sides of the fence on that. So my 2 cents there. Ken, I agree with you. Technology has democratized the ability to collect data. I mean, almost, we can do it with the phone now. We can, there's 1,000,001 ways to do it, and it's getting cheaper by the second. And so that does pose a risk or a threat to our industry, because from a skills point of view, or training and understanding point of view, if we remember that our goal is to develop spatial intelligibility in such a way that's repeatable, defensible, and able to be relied on by the public, that we have a responsibility there to do that. So I think that the two tie together. For me, what this sort of points to, and I'm sort of wrestling around just like everybody else is in our profession with this, is what do we do about it? What does it mean for us as a profession, as licensees within that profession? And for me, I don't know what the answer is, but I think the answer is a story. The story, the narrative that we embody as a survey profession, as an industry, is going to drive which of those two directions that we choose. And I think it's an open choice for us. I think we had the open choice, a similar open choice, around about the time that GIS kind of came to the fore.
Yes, glad you brought that up.
Freaking blew it.
Yes. Yes.
And actually, so let me put a pin in that for a second, because I want to come back to GIS. But I think the answer is a story, and I think our story sucks right now, to be perfectly frank. I think if you and I want to sort of pose a thought experiment here, and we can kind of take it in turn if we want. But when somebody asks you what you do for a living, how do you explain it?
Ooh, we've talked about this before.
You know what I say, Chad? You're going to love this. I say I am a geospatial professional. And you know what they say? They're like, oh my God, what is that? That sounds amazing. And then I just jump into it. I don't say I'm a land surveyor, because they're like, oh, you're the guy that plants bushes in my yard.
You call people.
You're the guy with the camera, blah, blah. I don't even say that. I'm just like, I'm a geospatial professional. And that spurs awesome conversation.
Yeah,
That's insightful.
I like that. I like that as well. I typically try to go with a similar line of attack. It doesn't always work, so some people. But it's interesting to me that we can't go to the word surveyor, because if we go to the word surveyor, they go, oh, you mean like the guys on the side of the road looking through that funny thing?
Looking through that thing.
Yeah.
And that's the story. So that's not the story we tell ourselves, but that's the story that's believed about us, perhaps. So if that's ubiquitous, we have I think it is.
It's perception.
But that is what you do.
It's perception.
You look through the thing. What's so wrong with saying, yes, I'm a land surveyor? I'm like, oh, you're the guy that's on the side of the road looking through the thing. He's like, yeah, actually, there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. Did you know that
so much more than that
little thing is scanning 1 billion points, and this is what we can, I mean, that's what I say. I don't call myself some fucking fancy word just to generate a conversation.
You're a geotechnical engineer.
I'm doing a lot
So when
more than that. My point is,
when somebody asks you what you do, what do you say?
Oh,
You say I'm a geotechnical engineer.
no, I say I manage a survey and geotechnical company. Oh, that's cool. Oh, surveying like this. Yeah, there's actually a lot of cool stuff going on with surveying. If you didn't know, here's some of the cool stuff. We're scanning this. We're remote sensing this. This is how. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Oh, that thing on the robot car that I see. Yeah, that's and it just. I'm sorry. I'm on the other side of this. You want to say that all this other technology is narrowing down our profession to this one little thing, and everybody else, I see it the other way. I see it as you are expanding the opportunity you have to have an influence on all this data collection.
Sure.
Who is the responsible party that says, okay, you collected all that data. I drew a line in that data that said this was 565 feet. You're the guy that says, no, here's the correct dimension, and here's how you use this data, and here's how you actually find all this stuff and where it should be on the planet. Why is this? I mean, I know I'm an optimist here, but why is this not an opportunity for your profession our profession to just jump in and say, man, look at all the cool other stuff we can do?
Because everything is getting so diluted. That's what's happening. It's getting diluted.
It's getting diluted.
Well, I think the narrative arc is lost, right? So, Sean, I agree. I agree with you. I think, and I'm sort of a walking reminder of that. From a career point of view, is that this field is wide open,
right?
But if we don't capture the story, we'll lose it. Somebody else will write the story for us, like they did with GIS.
Bingo. Thank you.
I'm compelled by a quote, and I want to share the quote. It comes out of, it's actually unattributed. So I'm licensed in Ohio, and I'm on 8 other states. But Ohio is an interesting one, from a
Ohio's
survey
interesting.
point of view, because of the way the lands were divided and kind of how that was undertaken and developed and worked over time. But in the beginning of the original Ohio land subdivision report from Christopher Sherman, there's a quote that says a map. It's unattributed. His report is dedicated. That's the dedication of his report. It says a map is a condensed history. So if you think about that, think about all of this spatial intelligibility that shows up in a map. How many different people use a map to make meaning and to develop what they're doing. If you consider that for just a second and hold that in your mind, and then bring in the next idea. If a map is a condensed history, what is a GIS? I would submit to you that a GIS is a freaking money tree.
Yep.
that we just totally, like, it's the golden goose that just keeps laying, and we totally missed it. I mean, and myself included, like we dabble a little bit in GIS, but man, like we had sort of we had it by the short hairs, and let it slip away. And I think it's because we missed the story.
Not only did we let it slip away, but in some ways that we rejected it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
yes.
We don't.
Totally. You're exactly, Josh.
We're surveyors. We measure to the pinpoint, not this approximate, close enough business. So I mean, that's been my experience going back to, the first thing I heard about GIS was it means get it surveyed, and that was such a horrible thing for me just to okay, I guess that's what it is.
Yep.
But I don't need to see my Domino's driver on the map down to the 100th. I need to know if he's generally coming to my house. And isn't there a place to have both of those things?
Well, yeah, one would think, right? But here's the thing: what is the definition of land surveying?
Oh, jeez.
Who wants to attack that one?
Oh, jeez. Here we go.
Because I mean, if it's measuring the Earth's surface, then I mean, GIS is land surveying, right? So it's like I agree with Chad that, and I've said this forever, that surveyors made a massive mistake.
So do you think
jumping on that.
Do you
And
think you're
here's-
going down to make the same mistake again in this era with
Go ahead.
with scanning and
Reality capture.
and digital twins and reality capture? Do you feel that you're making the same mistake? It's happening in front of you and you can't do anything about it.
1,000%.
Yeah,
Will?
I agree.
Fuck no, man. I'm jumping on board. I'm
That's
clawing,
what I'm talking
clawing
about.
at every,
Yes,
little
but
thing I
that's
can
you,
get.
Will. That's you. That's
But
you.
It's the same way. So I don't, I hear that argument that we missed out on GIS, but honestly, I didn't. You know what I mean? When I came into the game like around 2003. ArcMap, ArcGIS, those are actually classes that I took, and I didn't know shit about it. But once I got into it, we had a guy come into our office and just a simple subdivision plat, and he created a GIS out of it, and it had photos from the beginning to the end. It had photos of trenches open. It had all this, and I'm like, holy shit, that is powerful.
Yes.
And so I didn't ignore it. I mean, I wasn't at the position that I could, jump up. You're coming up in the company learning this stuff, but I understood the potential of it and the power of it right away. And I've always used it. You know what I mean? Like even back then when Google Earth came out, I remember panning around on my cube and the owner of the company comes by and he's like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh, it's this new thing, Google Earth, check it out, and oh, you can't do that. If everyone has that, it's going to mess up our servers. And I'm like, no, it's fine,
Yeah.
And then I learned that I could like actually create folders and put job folders in there. And then once TBC started giving you an export right into that, I'm like, holy shit, here we go. So, I mean, I've been capitalizing on that thing since day one. But I mean, I know as a profession, there's a lot of.
Well, look what happened. Look what happened. Look at present day. Every college, every junior college has some sort of GIS program. It could be a certificate. It could be a bachelor's in GIS or whatever, right? Hey, whatever, they did it right. Kudos. That's amazing. At the same time, I mean, Josh, we're very fortunate to work for a company that has a very robust GIS group. And I can speak to a project that I've been involved with specifically recently. It was like a 140 section survey in Missouri. And the GIS that was created for that project was such an amazing tool. It was incredible. So it's another tool in the toolbox, the way I look at it. But at the same time, I do agree with Chad that surveyors kind of missed the boat just a little bit, and as a result, lost a little bit of control of mapping.
Yeah, as an industry, and I will, I'm with you. There's certainly exceptions to that rule, but I think what happened is we forgot the story. We forgot the story that our job, and this kind of touches on what you were bringing up, Kent, with the definition of survey. We forgot our job is to help others make meaning of the world around them, to develop spatial intelligibility. And if we'd looked through that lens, then GIS would have made a lot more sense to us then. And I think, and this sort of drives, to where I think we're heading with a remote sensing first approach. What I'm calling it, the new zeitgeist in survey.
Yeah.
That's our opportunity to sort of galvanize our story and capture that sphere of influence under the survey or geomatics, moniker, brand, or flag, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, get in the weeds a little bit more on that, Chad.
Yeah, so I think what we're finding, since technology has democratized the ability to mass collect spatial data, I think our society and our world is sort of gravitated toward understanding itself on those terms. Like we talked about earlier, we want to know where the Domino's delivery man is, right? And that's how far is he from my house? That's what we want to know, right? That's a spatial relationship that we want to know, and so the best way that we can do that now is through remote sensing first. It's the collect. It's sort of I often liken it to golf because I play golf, and so that becomes a good analogy for me. It's the driver off the tee box, right? So it gets you the it's maybe not the most accurate tool all the time, but it's going to get you most of the way there. And then
Sounds like you've played with Josh before.
Yeah.
Not yet.
So, and I mean, the analogy holds up even for bad golfers, right? Because there's a bunch
Yeah,
of
right.
people in the survey space that they screw it up and it sprays all over the place, and you just you're off in the woods somewhere.
That's a great analogy. I love it.
Yeah. So, in remote, I'm using the term remote sensing kind of loosely. I know it's sort of traditionally had more of like a space-based kind of definition. So I'm using that, to include photogrammetry, at all levels, whether it's terrestrial or whether it's aerial. Same thing with laser scanning, no matter how it's deployed. We could talk about IFSAR and some of the space-based technologies would fall under that umbrella as well. But
So you're putting scanning and photogrammetry in remote sensing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of looping all those things together because that's sort of the basic way to go and get, I look at survey as a form of basic research. So and I have some principled reasons for doing that, but I don't pretend to know what the end use is. Now I might, I sit in an engineering company, right? So I might know what some of the end uses are going to be, and so I might know, and be able to develop over time what engineers are going to look for, and what exactly are the right dials to turn to be able to collect the right things that they may be looking for. But by and large, I look at that as applied science, and that's something for them to decide. I just need to give them as much information as possible to help them make the best decisions they can make. And so, right now, with the as I sort of scan the landscape, in our profession and in our space, the best way to do that right now, the best starting place to do that, to gain as much understanding as possible, is through remote sensing first. And so that's the approach that I've taken, as early as I can remember. And part of that, we were doing it before I knew it was as important as it is. So I've kind of, I kind of walked blind into that, and that's fine. But
makes sense. Yeah, I mean that's the first thing you do, right? When you get a project, the first thing you do is you're using some form of GIS, whether it's a GIS from a county assessor or Google Earth or something.
Yeah.
Maybe you have some old records in there, but you're going some geospatial reference to start with, right? I mean that's getting you in the ballpark, like you're saying. That's your drive.
Exactly. Well, and then it also allows them. I'm glad you brought that up too, Will, because it allows us to pair other data, historical records, other things that have been done before us with that, and sort of and again that sort of levels up, and that layers and on top of each other. But for me, that's the foundational piece that allows us to sort of understand the space, the existing condition, and then we can overlay more meaning and more meaning and more meaning and more meaning as we get closer.
And decide which tools you want to use, right? You almost have to be a caddy.
Yep.
Deciding which club you should use on that.
Another golf analogy. Here we go.
Love the golf analogies.
Here we go.
But I look at
I think we're onto something here.
Yeah, I look at it as a form of basic research, because you don't know what the end use necessarily is beforehand, which is a neat deal, because and there's some interesting stories. But there's a guy called Dan Klepner, in the 1960s, who was doing some research on atomic hydrogen masers, which were then used in an atomic clock, which then became the heart of satellite-based positioning. And he didn't intend at all to go out and develop a clock for GPS positioning, but but that's what it ended up at. And a lot of times in survey, that's what we do too. We don't know exactly what we're looking for, but if we can gather as much of kind of the existing condition and define the space and define the spatial relationships that are happening within that area, then that allows for greatness to be built on top of it, and that's to me that's the approach for survey.
So, Chad, let me ask you your opinion on this. You talk about remote sensing. We've talked about reality capture. These are all like catchphrases that are super popular right now. In both or either of those cases, do you think that a land surveyor should have involvement to ensure that is if that data is accurate, I guess. I mean, I guess it just depends.
Yeah.
If you don't want accurate data, then I guess you don't need a surveyor. If you want accurate data, then you probably should have a surveyor.
Yeah, so I know people get wrapped around the axle on accuracy a little bit, but so I don't know anybody that doesn't want accurate data, but we a lot of times as surveyor we get stuck, and I see this inside of HDR, in my world, and I think it's prevalent. We get stuck on positioning something geospatially, and we talk about geospatial positional accuracies as the only type of accuracy. And there are lots of types of accuracies, and so if somebody wants to, like, if somebody's doing a design in place kind of thing inside of a building, they don't care where that is on the face of the earth. They care that they have.
It's got to be relative.
Exactly. It needs to be this far off this wall and this far off that wall, and it can only be so high, and so there's the accuracy that you measure from wall to wall, or dimensionally. Those are the critical performance indicators for that space. So as surveyors, we have tools to do all of that, and so I do think that any time that we're there's a space-based or a spatial sort of question, I think surveyors have an opportunity to read into that and to provide value there, and I think this sort of swerves back into the definitional question for me. Like, if you look in most state statutes under the definition of land survey, they all sort of, this seems to be happening more and more now. They all sort of point to this special knowledge of applied mathematics and physical sciences and this kind of thing. And that, to me, that's a day late and a dollar short. I don't think that's where the economy is right now. But it does point to something specific that our industry has to offer. And I think whether we codify that or not, it doesn't change the need and the desire to understand the kind of spatial relationships and spatial environments that we can help define.
Yep. Yeah, I like that.
But I like that definition of what surveying is defining the spatial, it's taking the areas and helping define.
I like what he said, building the framework for people's space.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we've been
go ahead, Josh.
like, the profession has evolved, the technology has evolved, but sort of the definitions, as you were just mentioning, really have not.
No.
Well, to me, then it's the professionals haven't evolved with the profession and the technology. I'm pointing at you.
I don't know what you just said, but what did you say?
The professionals haven't evolved with the profession evolving.
What are you talking about?
The people in it aren't jumping on the train of what everything else is doing.
Oh, I just totally disagree with that. I think surveyors are, again, I'm very fortunate to work for a company that jumps on the train with the technology.
Sure.
It's the governing body that
Yes.
haven't evolved.
Governing body. I like that much more.
Well, that's
said,
that's
Josh.
the group of governed by a group of professionals, right?
Ooh, we could go down that path.
It's not like it's
right.
not like the group of elected officials that they are elected, but still it's
Yeah, right. I look at and maybe this is me, like sour grapes. I don't know. Is that sour grapes? Is that right?
depends on where you're going with this,
Sour
but
grapes.
probably.
I mean, like shitty wine. I have no idea. But speaking of shitty wine, is that Josh? Is that Josh wine?
No. This
Oh,
is
you're
great.
drinking. Oh, is it whiskey or wine?
No, it's wine.
That's wine.
Not sour.
Oh, there you go. So, like, I remember going to an RCN conference, or, reality captures conference in Boise here 2-3 years ago, I think it was. And, he does a good job with that and stuff like that. And at one of the after parties, I was talking to this young guy and, he's talking about, I'm totally on board with the scanning stuff. Like, we're freaking killing it, scanning. And I'm like, how? Like, how are you making money? What are you doing? He's like, well, we charge $500 to scan McDonald's, right? I'm like,
Sure.
Why would you charge $500 to scan McDonald's? That makes no freaking sense. He's like, I don't know. I mean, because we can and we continue to get the work and blah, blah, blah. It's like you're like a used car salesman at this point with that data. I mean, come on.
Don't knock the used car salesman profession either.
Well,
We all got to make a living here, KG.
I suppose. Yeah. And then next thing we're going to deregulate everything and who really gives a shit, right?
It doesn't have to be so catastrophic. Like, two things can be true at the same time.
Well, I think it's a good opportunity for people that want to kind of like, just I'll give you like the Bob Ross example, right? Like all this spatial technology is a different color on his palette, right? And so depending on what kind of picture he needs to paint, he's going to use a different color / technology to get that picture, right? If he needs Nat's ass, engineering design, he's going to use that real fine tip brush, right? But if we're just painting happy trees, fuck it, we're using this over here, right? So like, but you can relate all that. Like, we're going to use the drone for this. We're going to use GPS for this. Oh no, we're going to scan all this stuff. We're going to run levels, And so you just, like I said, you got to kind of know your audience. And, but again, you don't know, like Chad was saying, you don't know what that data might be used for down the road. So you got to make sure that, you're real careful with that as well. And, covering your needs.
I agree with you, Will. And I almost think that as surveyors, we're almost like keeper of the technologies. It's like we need to have the understanding of what the capabilities are, right?
Exactly. You got to know what to use, when to use it.
Exactly. Bingo. Yeah. I like that.
So, and your clients don't always know that. Your clients want you to, want, sub-centimeter, the best LiDAR you can imagine. And you're like, what are you going to view this with? Like,
ask a lot of questions.
The first step is, do you know how much that's going to cost? And then as long as you're not charging $500 for it for the McDonald's, that may be the first differentiator. Like, okay, what can I get for an inch? Right? Or I got 20 grand on this. Give me the best thing you can do for 20 grand.
Yeah. You get the yes man that's like, yes. And you're like, are you sure you want? Yes. You just know it's going to be a disaster when it comes down to when they go to use it. But
yeah, for sure. And Josh is going to love this. It's like determining expectation versus reality, right? I mean, that's kind of our job.
Absolutely.
Or it goes back to what Chad was saying, what his job is. I do have to admit, I immediately thought of Office Space and the guy that's like, I talk to the engineers to get to the salespeople because the salespeople can't talk to the engineers. And I'm like, that's exactly what I thought. But I mean, in this space, this is a critical thing. It's like, okay, hey, we need this data. Go fly it. I'm like, well, I may fly it, but what you think we're flying it with, it may be different, and here's what you're going to get, and here's how that's going to look, and here's the best you're going to get out of it, and here's down to the gnat's ass, and here's what you can and can't measure with it, and that's a critical, and I think Chad's onto something here. Maybe that's the way we should think about surveyors being, is that, that middle ground. Anybody can collect data, and anybody can use it, and there has to be some sort of professional that says, here's what you should and shouldn't, can and can't use that data with.
There you go.
Yeah, and look at the projects they've worked on. I mean, these guys, Josh and Chad, both work on some very large projects with so many fingers in the pot that just keeping, every single contractor that they have is using one of 5 of these technologies.
Right.
And so, I mean, you have to have somebody like Chad to be able to decipher that when that data comes in and it's 200 by 2 feet or 200 off,
Yep.
nobody else is going to know how to fix that problem. I mean,
Exactly.
so it's,
Exactly.
it's a very niche position because
Definitely.
a lot of people don't have that experience. They've never been in those oh shit situations and had to, you know, come up with the solution.
You're right.
So
Yeah. I love this question. And I would love everybody to chime in on it, to be honest with you. In today's world, based on everything we've talked about so far, you know, how would you define a reasonably competent surveyor? I really like that a lot. Chad, why don't you go first?
Yeah. So
Real quick, can I ask where did that phrase come from?
Which one?
Reasonably competent surveyor.
My new best friend Chad had that in his article.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that comes out of a United States Supreme Court case. It's the standard that the Supreme Court case you know, set in their decision. And if I forget what's the somebody knows the case, you know, feel free to jump in. I'll find.
I was just looking at this.
Graves versus Downey, and so they had they had a dispute, and the, you know, about a you know, land survey question boundary, and it made its way all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court found, well, you know, one surveyor didn't live up to their end of the bargain because they didn't follow that, and this is a quote, that of an ordinarily and reasonably competent land surveyor in like circumstances would have done. And so that was sort of laid out as the national standard. So a reasonably competent surveyor, you know, it's an interesting standard for me because it's not overly prescriptive. You know, it leaves some space because reasonably competent in Florida looks a little bit different than it does in California or Arizona, because simply for the terrain is different. There's water boundaries and all sorts of other things. I also think it's interesting because it's dynamic. So reasonable competence grows as our civilization grows in knowledge. So what we knew yesterday wouldn't necessarily be reasonably competent today. So it's an easy case with doctors on that deal. So it used to be there was bloodletting in leeches and things, and that was considered medical practice. That today sounds like lunacy, right?
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be reasonably competent today. It used to be, right? So reasonably competent, it grows as our body of knowledge grows as a civilization. It's constrained by like circumstances. So, you know, again, we sort of touched on, you know, what's good for Maine that wouldn't necessarily work for Texas, kind of thing.
Yep.
So I put forward the Johari window in my article on the National Survey Standard as a tool to sort of understand what reasonable competence should look like in practice, or at least that was my intent. So the Johari window is it's a psychology tool principally. So it was developed in the 1950s by Joseph Luft and Harry Ingram at UC Berkeley, I believe they were, and it's a tool that is meant to be oriented toward awareness. So there's four windows in the tool. So there's a self sort of player. You know, it's almost kind of a game theory kind of setup.
Yeah.
So there's a self against others. So there's this arena category, which would be in the top left of a 2x2 box, where information or things are known to the self and known to the others. And then there's as you work, you know, sort of right to left across the 2x2, you get an unknown to self but known to others, which is a blind spot for us internally.
Yeah.
And then the second row sort of is something that we know to ourselves, but it's not known to others, and that's a facade, or that's something that we can, a lot of times that's a competitive advantage, right?
Yep.
So that's
Grid to ground.
one.
Grid to ground.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that
That's
works for
awesome.
the individual or the professional. Yeah, that's right. And then there's the famous, it's maybe infamous, but there's not known to self and not known to others, and it's sort of the colloquially known as the unknown unknowns. That's what Donald Rumsfeld got in a bunch of trouble for with the Iraq war and things.
Yeah.
These unknown unknowns and
Oh,
technically
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
that's true. And so reasonable competence to me sort of stretches, obviously there's everything that's in the arena is known or ought to be known by a reasonably competent person. And there are some competitive advantages. There's some folks like Will that are pushing the boundaries, right? That have learned and have accumulated some knowledge that the rest of us don't know yet. And then there's stuff, conversely that we know that others don't. And so it sort of pushes, and then if we consider a remote sensing, basic research approach to our profession, we can push into the unknown unknowns, because if we go and we define spatial intelligibility and we can understand the space, all of a sudden an engineer or some user downstream of us can overlay some meaning, and then we pull out something that we didn't know we needed to know, and so now we sort of get this spiral upward into expanding knowledge. And so reasonable competence, if we think about that sort of as a boundary, if there's things we ought to know, things that others know that we don't yet, and we need to learn, and things that we don't know, or that we that are unknown unknowns. If we sort of fence that boundary off, that's, to me, that's a very vague definition of what reasonable competence is, but that's where it should be. Like if we can start to sort of work that ourselves onto that model, if we map ourselves and whatever we're trying to do onto that model, I think that helps us define what reasonable competence in similar circumstances is.
So you want to avoid the unknown unknown.
No, I think you want to lean into it.
You want to lean into the unknown
You want to have
unknown.
the data to back it up and have it ready so others can help figure out what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at I just pulled it up. This is so interesting. This Johari one. I've never looked at this before, to be honest with you. And the way you're describing it and how it applies to our profession, super powerful. This is incredible.
I reviewed it briefly. I reviewed it briefly, and I thought, this makes really good sense. But it's interesting because what I wrote down for the definition of a competent or a land surveyor, a reasonable and competent land surveyor, was first thing I looked up the definitions, like reasonable, having sound judgment, fair, competent, having the necessary knowledge. Okay, those things are great, right?
Yeah, pretty vague.
But in my opinion, and it's not just a land surveyor, it's the geospatial world. It's being aware. That's the first thing I wrote down. Being aware of what you know and what you don't know and what is changing, and the ability to learn and evolve. I've always felt like the best attribute I think you can have in any industry is the ability to learn. You have to be aware of what's going on, and when what you knew is no longer valuable, and to move on to the next technology or tool or whatever it is that's going to benefit you, because it moves at such a fast pace that
and not only the ability, Josh, and I love where you're going with this, but the willingness to learn. because I mean, I know that there is a generation of surveyors that are so freaking stubborn and set in their ways that they don't have a willingness to learn, right? Whereas there's a younger generation of surveyors that is in the polar opposite of that, and they're like sponges. They want to learn, so it's like we got to fill in the blanks in between there.
Yeah,
I think-
there's a lot of folks operating in that blind spot.
Yes.
And
Yep.
Yep.
Where surveying may be black and white to them, and it's an array of colors on a palette, just like Bob Ross's analogy, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
their moniker is "This is the way we've always done it," and that's
Bingo.
that's
Bingo.
a huge pet peeve of mine.
Mine too. Mine
And that's
too.
why we didn't embrace GIS when we had the opportunity.
Yeah, I
Now
think
in a full circle. There we go.
But it's also you guys. I hear all this stuff, and then I hear it's also the second oldest profession, and they've been doing it since they've actually recorded history. There's been this profession, so it's got an inherent flaw because you're asking a whole bunch of
Sure.
professionals to do things a different way or see things a different way when the core of how we do this is I've seen in all these other AEC disciplines is the most traditional. You have to do it this way because we have to be able to repeat it, and if you don't do it the same way, we can't repeat it. And this is all about repeatability.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
true location. It's just a location that you can get to again.
Yeah.
That's how you define it, right? I mean, not just, there's no rule that says this is the lat long of this spot. It's just because someone else can find it again. So you have that inherent tradition that you have to follow.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you have to embrace new technology and do things differently.
Yeah.
So it's okay that we're aware that that's an issue.
Yeah.
But
But it's repeatable in so many different ways.
well,
That's
it's
the problem.
Yeah, and I think again, communication is a big one, right? Because I've worked for these, old cats that are just so stuck on their ways, but they'll see me, back then I was the younger guy and I'm messing around with this stuff and they're going, what are you doing over there? Like, wait, holy shit, you can do that? And I'm like, well, I think I can, if you let me figure it out. Like I think I need to probably do this shit like way faster, and then it's like, whoa. And so that, not everybody has that, right? So that's
well, and then you got the guys like Kent that are like, okay, Johnny Hotshot, let's slow down a little bit. Let's make sure that actually does work here, and some checks and some.
I want proof. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, exactly.
and put price point on it too. So this technology is not cheap. So for a lot of these guys,
Let's ask the question. I
Holy
love
moly.
that. I am so glad you brought that up. Let's ask that question. Just because we as surveyors are able to do this better, faster, should we do it cheaper?
Oh, we've talked about this a lot, but I'll get Chad's input first.
Yeah.
So
And as a buyer of your guys' our service here.
Yeah. Let me preface it by saying that let's face it, historically, surveyors are not the best business people.
true.
You're talking to a surveyor with an MBA, so just
Yeah, well, I think that's fair. And again, it sort of points back to us losing the thread on the story, right? We've lost the overarching narrative about the value that we're able to deliver. And so if we forget that, then we forget that we can put a premium on our services and what we develop. So I think there's an argument for scaling if we can do it cheaper and faster. If we can do it better and faster, then maybe we should do it a little. It should be cheaper. But I get I'm very wary of the race to the bottom kind of
Bingo.
organization that there's many in our profession that organize themselves that way and just sort of operate out of the trunk of their car kind of thing. And so I think again, to me, price is reflective of value, and if we communicate value And it's not value at a specific instance too with the kind of information that and spatial intelligibility that we're creating. It's value across life cycle, and I do think there's a premium that we need to put on that. And there are life cycles in our profession that are very long. And so if you think about a boundary survey, like how long is a boundary survey authoritative? Well, I mean, it could be 100 years, could be 200 years.
Depends on the state.
We're retracing boundaries back to land grants and things like that. So, I mean, there's value in what those early surveyors did. That there needs to be some some price associated with that.
Yeah.
Well,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed.
The other school of thought is my wife's in real estate. And you ask about value and how do you appraise something, and in real estate, and properties, value is what someone is willing to pay for it.
There you go.
It doesn't matter if you need to use it for 5 years or 100 years. If someone will pay you for that service, that's what it's worth.
Is that also considered capitalism?
Oh, I think that's a different concept. It might be, but I think that takes it down a different road.
Yeah.
My whole point is, when we talk about a race to the bottom, we all realize it should be the other way. It's how much can I get for this?
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
you
a
gotta do
timing
value.
thing, and it's man, that seems expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what you're actually getting, and here's the case for the value, and here's why it costs this much.
The demand,
Yeah.
right? Like
It's the demand, it's the timing, it's all those things.
Yeah.
And the profession needs to be okay with the guy doing it out of the back of his trunk.
Well,
You're not gonna get
don't wanna
that guy
compete
out of
with
the
that.
so don't.
Like, don't even no. But what I like what Chad is saying here, and like I can speak for Josh. I think in this, it's like we spend a ton of time building value in what we do, right? And as a result, with the right clients, of course, that appreciate that, you can charge what you're worth.
Sure.
Right? That's the objective versus the guy working out of his trunk that is doing $500 lot surveys.
No, I don't want to charge what I'm worth. I want to charge the most you will possibly pay.
Well, fair enough.
yeah.
Fair enough. Are you going to pay $500? You're going to work for a guy who's going to pay no more than $500 for a lot survey?
No. You
Well,
would never do
you're
that.
not. You're not. But there's a demographic of surveyors that do that. Is all I'm saying.
And there is a business
And they're making a living.
model
And they're
that-
making a living.
Exactly. There's
Yes.
a business model that works for that person.
Good for them.
You can pick fights with the guy that said he's doing $500 scans and for Walmart all you
I'm
want.
not going to fight with them.
They're slimming out too, believe it or not. Those trunk guys are just the technology and the pricing is pricing them out, and a lot of them are older and they've just retired or got out of the game, and we're all getting those calls now. Like I don't want to go do drive 3 hours to go do an apple orchard. I just but
exactly.
somebody's got to do it, and so I don't know how I don't know what the solution is, but
I don't either. Chad might have the solution. Then.
If there were only some way to capture that and retain the value over time, and sell that data again and again and again and again, and that should sound an awful lot.
That's a whole
like
nother
GIS.
conversation. I love that. Yeah.
But think about but think about it. Like, I mean, that's GIS. So if the guy's selling service for $500, if he had a really nice back-end GIS that he was feeding all these things through, like he could do it. But like maybe that's his loss leader, and he's building this badass database on the back end that he's going to sell for a career. And then when he's tired of doing surveys, he's going to sell that data to some other surveyor for a freaking fortune. Like there's value in all of that. We and the tools are readily available for us to do that. We just got to
Exactly.
But think and then think about it in these terms. So, I feel like we touched on it a little bit before. When we were talking about space-based data capture, and a little bit with Google Earth. Like there's all these. there's a proliferation of companies now that are collecting what we in the offshore industry called multi-client data way back when. So that, this showed up in the seismic industry where it was super expensive to rig up a seismic boat to go survey, to collect seismic data in let's say the Gulf of Mexico. So as soon as they rigged it up, they just ran the freaking boat forever and ever and captured as much seismic data across the whole freaking Gulf as they could. And then they would go knock on doors and they would say, hey, we just collected this data. Are you interested? And they know where the lease blocks are and who owns them. And there's a big sale. And but we see that with Nearmap now. They're collecting multi-client data all the time, and they're selling it again and again and again and again. And guess what? That price model, even if they're doing it at a loss right now, that price model is going to increase. They're going to increase their per unit cost over time, and that's an increasing price model. That's a good freaking business model for surveyors.
It is.
We've been
it absolutely
to the
is.
bottom for a long time. Like we need to really, like that's part of the story that I'm kind of talking about is that we need to grab hold of. We need to get in that kind of thinking mode. And understand the value of what we're producing, what we're doing day in and day out, and then figure out a way to market it, over a course of a career or a lifetime and beyond.
1000% agree.
I always think of
really good stuff.
Some of the data collection that you guys are doing, we have with the tools. It's almost like you catch this huge fish, and you eat like this little sliver of it, and then toss the rest. And then someone else says, "Hey, I'm hungry," and you're like, "All right, let me go out and catch a big ass fish again and sliver off this little bit." And then you toss all the rest. And meanwhile, in the dumpster is a whole bunch of very quality stuff that some other, it just How do you like Chad says, just keep going back to the well, so to speak.
Like what Ted's doing in Florida.
Yeah,
He's onto something.
There's
no doubt about it.
He is onto something of
no doubt about it.
Why is it a one time? What is it? One use only?
Yeah.
It's almost like the guy that came up with the resealable candy bag instead of like, oh wait, I can use this twice instead of just once. Like, oh well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it also makes me think of the guys we met in Germany at Intergeo, AI Infra Solutions or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like they scanned the entire country.
Right.
Yeah,
whole thing.
So they've already got it in the bank, right? Now it's just like they're going to make money off of that.
Oh,
that's the idea.
In perpetuity.
Yeah. I mean,
the Europeans are pretty good at that. Yeah,
they totally are. Yeah.
But the only thing that loses a little bit, and I think we touched on it, is that map is only, you're missing the time component. It's still only a snapshot in that moment, and every day it gets staler and staler.
Yeah.
Until 5 years from now, what they think they had.
Yeah. The shelf life is gone.
Yeah, the shelf life's gone. So it's got to be this continual keep feeding and replacing kind of
that. But it could also be good, information for something else, right?
Good enough for planning.
Yeah, exactly. So
exactly.
And that's where a GIS comes in, is to be able to store that data into a receptacle that can be found later, right? Because it's kind of like surveyors are the farmers. Like, we're awesome at growing all these fields, but we're not chefs. We don't know what to do with it after we get it. It's like it goes here, and then you do what you want with it. It might sit in a warehouse for 10 days, or it might end up at the supermarket. We don't, we're going to farm the same way.
Definitely.
And it's hard to be both, right? It's hard to be
the
farmer and the chef. And so that's where we got to work together.
Look at Will closing it out on a high note. I love that.
There's some good farm to table places around here.
Right?
Where,
now I'm hungry.
Right.
Now I'm hungry. This is great. All right. So we've never done this before. Did you see this? The lightning round. Did you see what I did here? This is going to be fun. And we're going to focus on Chad here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Chad. This is the lightning round. There's 4 questions. Okay. Question 1. What's one outdated habit surveyors need to leave behind?
Oh man, I'm tempted to say field book, but I know that's heresy for a lot. A lot of surveyors, right? It's all in this. Now we've got a digital.
Yes.
But here's that. So I'm mixed on that a little bit, because I think there is value in redundancy in some places. What I think we need to drop as a surveying profession is sort of the attitude that I'm the surveyor and I know best.
Bingo.
I think
Arrogance.
yeah, the professional arrogance and is a big one for me. It's the thing we see this most frequently in these freaking pincushion corners, man. It drives me insane.
I can measure better than you.
Yeah, because and they
Yeah.
like and again, it's a total misconception of what we're doing. We're retracing, and so like yeah, if you come up with a solution that's a little bit different than that marker is meant to show, don't put a freaking another one in there. Just note it on
Do
your
not.
survey, right? Like you know, you can and defend your method, and I like that's all great, but we got to drop the professional arrogance that says I'm putting a new mark where it's supposed to be, and everything else that's done before me is freaking crap.
Yes. Oh my God. Get rid of the professional arrogance. I contributed
Once
to
again,
that quote. I
once
have a
again,
feeling.
Chad, you are
Yes.
stroking the
Yes.
the host's ego over here. Keep going.
So
Lightning
good.
round.
So good. All right. Lightning round. What's one piece of technology you're most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the handheld stuff, the Slam handheld things. Those are super cool, and they're starting to do multiple Slam. Like we're getting redundancy in like 2 and 3 slams, so the sharpness is kind of coming around. I think that's gonna, in terms of building spatial intelligibility,
Yeah.
that's gonna open up some new pathways for us. And get us into spaces that we should be, but we haven't been historically.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Another tool in the toolbox, right? Okay. Fill in the blank. The future of surveying is.
Yeah, that's a good. I like the start of that sentence there, because there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. I'm optimistic about survey. You know, I kind of we talked a little bit about my background a little bit earlier on, but I kind of came backward into survey, which is, you know, talking with some, you know, friends and other folks that I've met in the profession, that it's not the path, but it's a path, you know, into survey. I think the you know, the future of survey is bright. I think there's tons of opportunity in front of us.
Yes.
I think if we're bold and we're courageous and we can get our story straight, we'll capture the future for us in such a way that I think we can pull people into this profession. I think we're doing a lot to try to push people in, but I think you know, we have a very deep and rich tradition to draw on, and I think we have extreme value to offer to the way that our data-driven economy is understanding the world, that we can directly speak into. And I think if we can get, you know, ourselves sort of oriented and, you know, kind of like a school of fish, you know, highly aligned and pointed in the right direction, I think we'll generate a wake, so to speak, and we'll start pulling people into this profession, and we'll see we'll see the things that we want to see, you know, rising salaries and that kind of thing. So I'm excited about the future of the profession. I think there's a lot of hard work that you guys are speaking into. So you know, again, to underscore, I'm super pumped for the platform to be able to sit with you guys, and because you guys are touching a huge chunk of our profession. And
Well said, man. And thank you for that. Josh, you got something?
I mean, all of those lightning responses were pretty much what I was thinking. You know, so I think Chad hit the nail on the head there. I don't, you know,
He's good at that. Chad's good at hitting the nail on the head. Yeah. He's awesome. How about you, Will? You got anything you want to add to that? Sean has one more question for Chad. Any closing thoughts?
That's great, man. I'm glad we got to chat with a like-minded individual. It's
it's refreshing, right?
Yeah,
just motivates you.
Kinda
I love it.
Few and far between sometimes in our little bubble here. So it's great to hear that, and all your experiences, man. I'm going to use that for further career fairs and, you know, use you as an example of all these different things, because I mean, that's
Definitely.
pretty cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sean, you got your got one more question for him?
I do. Chad, we asked this to everybody. You're on the hot seat. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
I do. I've been sort of wrestling with this for a little while now. I actually have it on my
Oh,
my sweater.
look at
here.
Is
this.
that a branded mantra?
Are you tattooed? What is this?
So this is the Maxwell family crest, and there's a
Oh, that is
eagle here.
awesome.
And if you look closely, I don't know if you can see it. It looks pretty small for me, but there's a word, you know, kind of written across here. It's Reveresco, and so that's you know, an old world that means to grow strong again. And so that's the mantra that we've adopted as our family. I think it's a good one also for survey. I think we can grow strong again, and you know, it's going to take hard work that, you know, we talked about, and there's lots of opportunity for improvement and to expand outward, but I think we're up to it. And you know, I'm very grateful again for the platform and the, you know, the opportunity to talk to you guys, like-minded folks. So.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Will. What you got, bud?
So you were talking about, you know, all these different things that you've had the opportunity to do and how lucky you were, but how much of that luck was having really good mentors
Bam. Great question.
helping you out there?
100%. So, yeah, survey's a small world, and so I've been lucky enough, you know, in survey to be you know, in some amazing places, but I've worked with a pretty tight group of people since I got into this profession, and it's something where, you know, we're for one another, we're pushing the boundaries. You know, and we're trying to think outside of ourselves, and so, you know, there's folks that I've worked with at John Chance and at Fugro that I now work with at HDR, and so there's, like, I've had professionals and people that are sort of on the periphery or tangentially tied to survey that have mentored me and pulled me along and help me understand the value that we're providing as surveyors, and so they've, you know, that's rejuvenating and motivating for me. So yeah, 100%. I think, you know, this is a weird one. So Paul Azinger, who's a golfer.
Yeah.
We know.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cool golfer. So he wrote a book called Cracking the Code. And he wanted the Americans to win the Ryder Cup, and they hadn't won in a long time, and the Europeans were just beating the senses out of them. So what he did was he did some studying of Navy SEALs and how they train, and then so he figured out how to get himself appointed as the coach of the American Ryder Cup team. And so he implemented some of the stuff that he learned by watching Navy SEAL training, and he put the guys in groups of four, and there was like a leader of the group of four, and then like three, and so that it's been a total accident, but that's sort of I've found myself in a tight group of about four folks, not led by me. You know, who pulled us along in the right direction, and that's I think there's, as I reflect on that, you know, now and in fleeting moments, those are the kinds of things, Will, that you mentioned, the kind of pouring into that other people do as mentors, and you know, I think it means everything. So I would encourage, you know, if you don't have a setup like that, like try to build it. Try to show up and say yes.
Definitely. Show up and say yes.
Show up and say yes. Kent's going to go around and ask for some parting words before we go. I'm going to kick mine to Will because I want to have that last minute to bring up what you sent us from Nolan.
Oh, yes. The NSPS mentorship program. They extended the deadline to tomorrow, actually, and you can sign up. I think it's like a 15-question form, and then they will pair you with a mentee. And it's all, they put together a really good platform to where, it's not going to take a ton of time off your hands, and they're matching mentors with mentees based on skills, based on, geographic areas. So it's really cool. And like I said, most of the successful surveyors that I've talked to still talk to their mentor. They might be retired, they might be whatever, but and I'm the same way. I still, when the shit hits the fan, I'm calling all guys that are already retired, that my old party chiefs, and just, even though they might not know the technology, it's the fundamentals of it, and just getting that, sometimes just that assurance that you're doing it right, like, I mean,
definitely.
so super important.
And it sounds like an avenue for someone that doesn't have the group and the experience like Chad does. If you don't have a mentor and don't see one around, maybe able to find one through NSPS.
That's
a good
reach
thing.
out to Nolan Marks. He's the NSPS YSN coordinator, or I think he stepped down, but he's pretty much still helping.
Reach out.
Oh,
to Nolan.
yeah.
Or
Great
send an
guy.
email to info@thegeoholics.com.
Yes.
and
We will hook you up.
We'll connect you.
Yep.
1,000%. I just did that application today, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
job.
Cool.
Yeah.
Way to be.
Oh yeah. Hey, that's what I do.
Take us out.
What I do. Chad, real quick, how can folks get a hold of you if they want to find out more about what you've been sharing with us this evening?
Yeah, I think maybe the best way is on LinkedIn. That's sort of my outward-facing side at the moment. So if you can find me on LinkedIn or I'm tempted to be like Bob Goff. I don't know if you guys read any Bob Goff's books, but he publishes his phone number in the back of the book.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I mean, maybe,
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to go that far.
anyway, yeah, LinkedIn's
Yeah.
the best way. But
That's awesome, man.
Done.
Hey, Chad, thank you again so much for being here. I know it's a good episode when I make a new best friend, just like I did tonight. So, Josh, thank you for being here. Love what you added to the conversation. Will, of course, Sean, whatever. Let's go. Let's go out. You ready?
Let's go, buddy.
Adding value, making friends. Check those boxes. Stick around, guys, afterwards. If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, send us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. We're booking into June at this point. Jake Owen on the boat again, available everywhere. Until next time, everyone, I got some great takeaways from this episode. I think about the answer to the story. A map is a condensed history. Don't forget the story. Do away with professional arrogance. Grow strong again.
Grow strong
How much
again.
better than that is it? Show up and say yes, of course.
And as always,
Most importantly, be safe and healthy, everybody. Cold beer with my friends. You know, just keep